Yo guys, Mike for Sim Racing 604, and this is the Moza Racing SGP Sequential Shifter. This is the Moza product I've been most looking forward to. It was sort of unveiled at a games conference last year, and ever since I've been like, I hope they send me one for a review. I play a lot of rally games, I drive a lot of old school Group GT cars in sim racing, and a sequential stick is a must have for those. So we finally have one from Moza Racing. I'm excited to review it for you today, so let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so before we get into the review, I'm just going to tell you that Moza did send me this unit for free for review, but no money changed hands. I don't offer affiliate links, and of course the words and opinions are my own. So I have had this for a month and a half now, I guess, so that spans the Christmas season 2023, which is usually when I do an unusual amount of sim racing because, I have more time off work, etc. So I've really put this thing through its paces. I've put it through thousands of shifts, and it has held up wonderfully. The way hardware reviews work in the sim racing world, it really depends on the product, but oftentimes I will receive a product and then have, a week to 2 weeks to try it out, and you kind of try to form your best opinion in that limited time. But I've really had a lot of time to sink my teeth into this and done a ton of rally driving with it, and it's held up wonderfully, as I said. So Moza's SGP Sequential Shifter is exactly what you would think it is. It is a sequential stick shifter that has a reasonable amount of customization, in fact a good amount of customization on it, and a few extra features as well, which I'll get into today. The total button count, or the total press count, I don't know what the technical term is, but the amount of things you can do with this perhaps is 5. So of course we have this, which I usually map to upshift. We have forward, which I usually map to downshift. The trigger, which is a third button, and then Moza also included 2 additional buttons down here. You can map those to whatever you want. I don't immediately have recommendations. I don't usually see sequential shifters. I know the new Husink belt does ship with buttons at the base as well, but it's not a common thing, and I don't know immediately what most people would map that to, but just the same, there's a couple of extra buttons there should you wish to use it. Moza's SGP Sequential Shifter does have a number of customization options. Let's talk first about the native customization options. You can probably see down this shaft here there are a number of holes, so the shaft can actually raise and lower. I guess it's a total of about 6 inches. So right now it's at one of the topmost positions, but you can shrink it down. You can bring this down, that gap there, and have the shift knob sticking just proud of this trigger here. So, and you can also go up a little bit. So like I said, about 6 inches of total not travel, but 6 inches of total adjustability on this SGP Sequential Shifter. Also, in terms of customization, there are little holes, one here, and there's a mirrored one on the other side, and Moza ships it with Allen keys, and if you put Allen keys in there and turn them in opposing directions, you can tighten or loosen the pressure required to shift. So right now I have this set how I like it. It's quite a stiff shift. I come from the SG Racing Sequential Shifter, which is a phenomenal piece of gear, and automotive grade. I think SG promotes it on their Facebook page, being driven in a real car. This is not that, of course, but it does have a very stiff shift if you want it, and that's exactly how I like it. But you can use the included Allen keys to back those nuts off and get this a little bit easier to shift with. So it's all metal construction top to bottom. The only plastic pieces I can see are the actual buttons here. Other than that, and the trigger. The trigger is also plastic, but by and large, this is an all-metal construction. So it comes in with a price of $130, and so for that price, there's not a lot on the market I can think of in terms of sequential shifters with this level of build quality. So it's been very impressive to have a $130 shifter built like this. So well done to Moza. All right, let's do a quick breakdown. We'll go kind of top to bottom on this SGP Sequential Shifter and talk a little bit more about the features. So top, this grip, all metal. It's got kind of a pattern on it to help with grip, I suppose. It's gonna squeak, probably. Yeah, it's squeaking, and there's quite a long thread in there, but they intentionally make it so you can take this off. So if you have your own custom shift knob that you prefer, you can order one off your favorite automotive website, and as long as the threads match up, you can put whatever shift knob you want on here, so that's a cool feature. Again, it has the adjustability here. Typically, we would put 2 bolts in like I have to make sure there's no wiggle in it, but you do have adjustability up and down here, and you can use the included wrench and included Allen key. Sorry, I guess 2 included wrenches to back the acorn nut. Got the acorn nuts on this side, and then bolts going through from this side, so you could use the included wrenches to back that off. And it does have the lock washers as well to make sure it doesn't slip. But yeah, you can take those out and adjust the shaft up and down, put the bolts back in, and then you have a different height for your shifter. Also a trigger here, again, a little plastic trigger. You would typically map this to neutral. So when you're driving and need to shift into neutral for whatever reason, just squeeze the trigger. What I've done in EA Sports WRC is map that as the continue button, because as you know, if you've played EA Sports WRC, you know they are relentless with their, advance to the next screen, advance to the next screen, advance to the next screen. So I've just got it mapped there so I don't have to reach for my keyboard or mouse. I can just quickly squeeze, and get into my race. But you can map that to whatever you want. But like I say, probably neutral. Keeping on, S1, S2 is how the buttons are mapped. In EA Sports WRC, I use the top one for headlights, bottom one for wipers. But you can, of course, do whatever you want. Flipping it around here, looking at the front of the unit, we have 2 ports. We have a USB port and an RJ12 port. So for those familiar with the Moza ecosystem, you would know that RJ12 port can connect to a compatible wheelbase or connect to the USB hub to save you a USB port on your computer. This is PC only, but again, you can just take the included RJ cable, put it into most Moza wheels, and then it will install automatically, and you can use your shifter without using a USB port. Or if you're not in the Moza ecosystem but just want this product, you can go USB direct to your computer. Again, the adjustability here, just use the included Allen keys to do that. If we look at the bottom here, well, you can see there's 3 holes across here, 3 holes across there. That's the easiest way to mount this. There are bolts and nuts included, of course. These did not line up with my shifter plate, so I had to use these. They have 8 holes along the bottom here, same thread as the included bolts. So you can just go through your shifter plate up into this, tighten them down, and then you can hard mount this. There is no included clamp to just tighten a screw and get this clamped onto a table or anything like that. This is definitely meant for the shifter plate. But that is pretty much it. So it's a very impressive piece of hardware, and as I say, for $130, I don't think you can really do much better. It's been excellent for me thus far. No complaints whatsoever. It did ship, actually I'll just say this quickly, it did ship with a little bit of wiggle in it. So I took my Allen keys and I tightened the top bolts on either side, and that got rid of that wiggle. I don't know, I suspect that was just an error. I'm using a pre-production model, so sometimes they ship with minor defects, but it was just a quick twist of those 2 bolts, and then it got back in line. And as you can see, sorry, it's probably going to be loud, but the shift action is very solid. So this thing performs very, very well, and the shift action is exactly how firm I would want it. All right, so we're going to go ahead, get this on the rig, do some testing, and then I'll come back to the table and give you my final thoughts, talk about good, neutral, and bad of the Moza Racing SGP Sequential Shifter. All right, so to test out the Moza Racing SGP Sequential Shifter, we are here in Finland in EA Sports WRC. We're just going to chuck this car around for the next 3 minutes or so, and I'll just give you my impressions of driving with the SGP Sequential. So of course, what do you look for in a sequential shifter? The first thing is feel. Does it feel, solid? Is there a nice positive click when you get this thing into gear? And the short answer with this SGP Sequential is that yes, absolutely. It feels fantastic. Now, I happen to own a literally automotive grade SG Racing Sequential Shifter, and it's not quite that. There's, you know, a bit more of a automotive level mechanical feel to the SG Racing, but this SGP by Moza, and I realize that's confusing now that I say it, is just like one small step below that. Like, it feels surprisingly, you know, positive and solid in its shifts. And of course I happen to choose a stage where there's a long section where I don't shift at all. But yeah, when you do shift, this thing just feels incredible. And for the price, for 130 bucks, you really can't ask for more. So again, it's just a really firm click into position, and you can hopefully see, hopefully it's coming through in the video, that there's no wiggle whatsoever. I was afraid, you know, that this thing would start to wear after the thousands and thousands of shifts that I've put this thing through, but that has not been the case. It's just remained solid, and no complaints about the feel. Nothing certainly has gotten worse with this. My driving may have got worse, but the sequential shifter did not. Perfectly executed pirouette there. Now I'm just showing off. But yeah, in all seriousness, just a great feeling shifter. And I love that Moza Racing released this. It was one of the ones that I hoped they would release, and now we have it, and it's everything I dreamed it would be. Again, is it the most solid feeling that I've ever owned? Nope. I would say my SG Racing edges it out. But yeah, with any reasonable consideration to price, this is an excellent feeling shifter. You got those bonus 2 buttons. It's not something I have chosen to use in this video, but you can map it to whatever you want, so it's a nice bonus. And that is that. Alright, let's get back to the table and close this video out. Alright, so final thoughts on the Moza Racing SGP Sequential Shifter. Overall, as you can tell by the by what I was talking about when I was driving, I really like this unit. I think it's phenomenal for 130 bucks. Really good. If you're in the market for a PC sequential shifter, definitely worth a consideration. So talk about the good, neutral, and bad, things I like, things I'm just kind of okay with, and things I don't like. First thing in the good category is the shift action, the shift feel. It's great. It's a slight notch below my SG Racing, which again is kind of automotive quality. This is not that. It's a step below that, but frankly, not much of a step below that. And the fact that it's held up perfectly and not lost any of that stiffness, not gained any wiggle, etc., is very impressive. So the first thing, of course, you want to talk about when you talk about a sequential shifter, does it feel good to shift? Yes, very much so with the SGP Sequential. And then we have to talk, of course, about the customization options, the fact that they, you know, anticipate you changing out this shift knob, the fact that they know that some people will like a longer throw on the shift or a shorter throw, allowing you to customize that. And then again, the Allen keys here that can that allow you to adjust the pressure required for a shift. I think the customization is great. Sim racing is not one size fits all, of course. Different people like different things, and it's great to know that Moza has thought of that and allowed you to customize this to your liking. And we will also talk, of course, about the mounting options. So if we look at the bottom of this, yeah, it's unfortunate that there's no table clamp, but at the same time, the type of market this is playing to, I don't think that's a big deal. I think most people will be able to screw this down onto a shifter plate, and the fact that you have, you know, 3 holes here, top and bottom, or front and back, I suppose, and then 8 additional holes, so it's sure to fit just about any shift plate, I think is really great. We can also talk about connectivity and the fact that you know, you can either go to a USB hub or your Moza Racing wheelbase and save yourself a USB port. That's fantastic. Or having the USB option is also very good. So depending on whether or not you're in the Moza Racing ecosystem, you can benefit a little bit, but generally it's got got good connectivity, and that's always a great thing. We could also talk about price. $130 I think is very good. You know, for a sequential shifter, it's on the lower end of the price scale. I've seen the price of Houston Felt's new shifter, which looks like a phenomenal piece of gear, but it is, you know, much more expensive than this SGP shifter. So I think they've done a good price. $130 sounds very reasonable to me. So price and value, definite thumbs up. Next is reliability. Again, I've had a month and a half-ish with this shifter, put it through thousands of shifts. You know, cars like the Adonis D9 that I reviewed on my channel, or, you know, all the EA Sports WRC I play, which is give or take every day. This is what I use. I don't think there's ever been one time where I had anything wrong. I never missed a shift. It didn't disconnect on its own, nothing like that. It hasn't developed any wiggle relative to its base or anything like that. So just phenomenally reliable, very, very impressive. And I'm glad I had the time to test it out and just confirm that. We can also talk about the build materials. Again, there's no visible plastic other than the buttons. This is pretty much and the trigger. I always forget the trigger. But yeah, the all metal design, I mean, it gives you that added bit of confidence that you can throw this around, push, pull thousands of times, and it's not going to break. It's not going to wear on you. So, you know, all metal for $130, very good. So, yeah, definite plus for the build materials. And lastly, you know, I'm a stickler. The included parts, it is great. Great to know that, you know, all the bolts are included that you would need to clamp this down, as well the Allen keys to adjust the stiffness, and the wrenches to take these bolts and acorn knots off to adjust the height and, you know, the throw distance of the shifter. Always great to see. Plus it comes with the RJ cable, USB cable, so basically everything you need to get up and running. That's big for me. I don't want to run to the hardware store after I make a purchase. So well done, Moza, for including what we need. Talking about the neutral now, things I'm just kind of okay with on this shifter. The first one is the shift knob materials. Being metal, there's not much grip there, unfortunately. So I think a lot of people will look to either wrap this in tape or add rubber grips, or maybe replace the knob itself. It's unfortunate. I think it would have been quite easy for Moza to add something a little bit more grippy. I have never had my hand slip off. I don't think it's that level of slippery, and for sure if you're wearing gloves it won't be an issue, but I just think out of the box they could have made it a little bit more grippy, a little bit more haptic perhaps. Textured, that's the word I'm looking for. A little bit more textured, so that your hand never loses grip would have been nice. And also in the neutral category, these adjustment knobs, or adjustment bolts rather, while I love the idea that you can customize the resistance of your shift, it would be nice if there was some sort of markings on here, because you never know, you know, how far you've gone. It's just kind of experimenting. You know, you got to turn the Allen keys opposite directions, and then did I get it right? Nah, still too stiff. And then you got to back it up, getting closer. So it'd be nice if they had little markings here with arrows to say, you know, that's a level 10 on this side and a level 10 on that side. Therefore, you have an overall level 10 of resistance, or whatever method they choose. But it would just be nice if there was a bit more indication of what you're doing. Because as of right now, it's a bit of a pain, especially when it's mounted on your rig and you can't necessarily see on both sides. It'd just be nice if there was something there to help guide you in how much resistance you have adjusted your SGP shifter to. And in the bad category, I struggled with this one. I don't like to do any review where I don't say anything bad about a product, but I will admit I struggled with this one. I think it's a great piece of gear. The lone piece of bad I have is this trigger. It feels very flimsy. You know, the shift action is great. The metal materials, everything feels cool. And then they added a plastic trigger with the smallest, you can actually see inside and see the spring. It's got the tiniest little spring in it, and it just feels cheap. Again, set against the sort of backdrop of all the other great things, the robust build materials and the reliability, you got this cheap little plastic trigger, and I think it would have been as easy as stiffening the included spring. This one's just too light. I can move it with my pinky quite easily, and again, it is plastic. If you want to make it out of plastic, fine. I don't really care. I'm not going to deduct points for that, but at the same time, give it a real spring. I want to feel something. This one just feels so loose and flimsy. and it's the one part of the SGP Sequential Shifter that I'm like, that one feels a little cheap. So that's the only thing bad I have to say about it. Overall, it's fantastic. So that brings my SGP Sequential Shifter review to a close. I love it. It was the piece of gear I was most looking forward to in 2024 from Moza Racing. And frankly, it's kind of rounding out the edges of Moza's offerings. I hope to see a lot more from them in the future. A button box would be nice, but other than that, I mean, they're just crushing it on a lot of different facets. And this SGP Sequential Shifter, in my opinion, is a great one. So that is for your consideration. Strong recommendation from me if you're in the market for a PC compatible sequential shifter. This thing has been phenomenal for me. Thank you to Moza Racing for sending this to me for review. Thank you to you for watching, and we will see you next time.